Alright, in this video I'm going to cover the fundamentals of nutrition, two very simple strategies that you can take and start implementing right away to get fantastic results and also maintain the results that you achieve, and also where to get started and how to identify where your body is metabolically at this stage when you're starting to create a new lifestyle diet, if you will. So when it comes to the fundamental of nutrition, let's talk about the three macronutrients. Macronutrients simply means your carbohydrates, your fats, and your protein. And all these three are essentially our simple energy sources. And we need a certain amount of all of them. And how much of it we need is completely down to the individual, of how active you are, how how old you are, and your height. There's a lot of different variables that implement, and I'll explain exactly how you can figure out how much of each macronutrient you're going to need later onwards. So the very first thing that I would suggest when you want to get started in terms of a nutrition plan is identifying where you are right now in terms of your metabolic rate. So, and that's the fundamental. That's the key to figuring out what steps to take further onwards. So, how do we do this? The very first thing I would suggest is simply download a free app. It's called MyFitnessPal. There's many different applications out there, but I would say that MyFitnessPal is the easiest one to use so far, and it's free as well. So, essentially, what it is an online food diary, right? So, the first thing you're going to do, if you haven't already, is download the application and then input 7 days worth of food into the diary. Yeah. And when you download the application, you're going to make yourself an account, a free account, and then in there you'll put your age, your height, and also your target goals, and your current weight, etc. So depending on that, it will also pretty much calculate automatically how much your target macronutrients need to be. For example, how much protein you need to eat per day, how much carbohydrates you need to eat per day, and how much fats you need to eat per day. So all I want you to do for the first 7 days is track down how much macronutrients you're eating per day. So simply input whatever you're having for breakfast, whatever you're drinking for breakfast, for lunch, whatever you're eating for lunch and drinking, and the same for dinner, and whatever snacks you add. It's pretty straightforward, the application, once you get used to it. And in terms of like measuring what you eat, there's different types of measurements that you can use on it, and you do not have to overcomplicate it. Once you do it a few times, it actually becomes very simple. It's a very simple process, and the difference between achieving fairly alright results and actually great results and sustainable results is learning how to track your macronutrients. And this will also teach you how to be independent and not be dependent on some sort of meal plan or like some sort of point counting system and whatnot. Nothing wrong with these systems, but the results you get from these systems is very short-lived, and you're also so dependent on these systems. You want to, and it only works for so long. Let's put it as that. So to actually achieve specific results, that's both helping you to tone up and lose the excess bit of body fat, is learning how to track your macronutrients. And so the next thing you're going to do, so your first thing you're going to do is track your macronutrients for up to 7 days. And this will also be an eye-opener, and you'll be surprised. The majority of people who do this find out that they've actually been under-eating for a very long time. And as a result of that, the body goes into a starvation mode, which preserve more body fat, and that's what's stopping them from losing more weight. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Start tracking your macronutrients. And from there onwards, the two strategies that I would suggest to implement is either intermittent fasting, and the other one is simply to have breakfast. Now this is completely depending on your lifestyle. Now intermittent fasting, I've spoken about this quite a lot before. Depending on when you're watching this training video, either I've already sent you information regarding it already, or you will receive it very soon. And all I want you to do with intermittent fasting is simply try out a 16 to 18 hour fast and then eat for about 8 hours. And now, if you're someone who's never fasted before, that may sound like it's a lot, but the reality is actually not. In the key is, just like anything, is ease your way into it. So, for instance, every time you go to sleep, you're already fasting, right? So instead of say you go to sleep and you're currently sleeping for 8 hours, essentially that's an 8 hour fast. So for the next week or the next 3 days or so, you can start having your first meal about 2 hours later. So instead of an 8 hour fast, you will have a 10 hour fast, and then after that, add another couple of hours or 1 hour, however it fits into, however you feel suitable, and like that you can slowly over the next few weeks increase it up to 16 hours. And the beauty of intermittent fasting is very easy to follow. It's very easy to follow, and it's very easy to adapt into any sort of lifestyle, right? Whether you're a shift worker or whether you work at nights or you wake up early mornings, you can easily adapt this however you want into your lifestyle. All you have to do is think about 2 times: eat between this time and this time, stop eating between this time and this time. That's how simple it is. And if you haven't already, there's so much research done on it, and there's a lot of studies that prove how the benefits of it. It's not just great for losing weight. You also reduce inflammation. A lot of those unnecessary joint aches and pains, they go away. Anxiety helps you with sleep, and then there's a lot of benefits more in detail that I'm sure you can research out yourself. But a lot of the clients that I've had as well have got some great results with intermittent fasting, especially if you want to lose a few inches off your waist pretty fast. Intermittent fasting is a great way to do that, because a lot of the weight that we hold in our waist, especially, is water weight and bloatedness. So what we have to do essentially is give our body a bit of rest, and that's what intermittent fasting technically does, because we're constantly feeding the body a lot of food, and it's like a car. You're constantly running it. So it makes sense that every once in a while you have to pause the engine and give it a bit of rest. And there's a lot that happens during that rest period. So when you create this 16 to 18 hour fast, essentially you're helping your metabolism speed up, and you're helping your body recover. Your digestive system works better, and as a result of all of this, you burn quite a lot more body fat. And also the beauty of intermittent fasting is it's something that, especially if you're a person who has who goes out regularly, or who has a birthday coming up, or who has like an event where you tend to overindulge, or say a holiday, for example. Intermittent fasting is something you can simply implement easily to help create a healthy deficit, if you will. And for example, when I go on holiday, I just tend to go on holiday and not focus on food. I just enjoy. I'll have pizza whenever I want. I'll pretty much eat ice cream and all sorts of things, right? And have a proper holiday. And then but as soon as I come back for the next 6 to 8 weeks, what I'll do is I'll do intermittent fasting for 5 to 6 days of the week. And as a result of that, within those 8 weeks, I go right back to my healthy, normal weight. Yeah? Because a lot of the weight that we put on is temporary. The biggest issue is when we don't do anything about it, or when we don't have a plan, or when we're not prepared. So just because you had a birthday event or night out where you went and overate, for example, that's not the end of the world. It's not. What you have to avoid is looking at it from a day's perspective. Look at it from a week's perspective. Look at it from a month's perspective, because you could make up for that overindulgence that you had. We're all going to have these days, right? We are going to have birthday events and night outs and all sorts of stuff. And we still need to enjoy the food that we love. So with a strategy like intermittent fasting, you can simply create this healthy deficit. For example, say you're going out on Friday night, you could fast for 2 days before, yeah, or 3 days before, right, or 2 days after, 3 days after, whatnot. Especially if you know on that night out you're going to be eating a lot more, and or for example, if you're going to be drinking a lot, and by doing that, you can still create this healthy deficit that over the course of a week or 2 weeks, your body weight is going to maintain, and you'll still create that healthy deficit to lose excess body fat. That way you don't go off the wagon, as most of us put it. So yeah, definitely start implementing intermittent fasting. And then I've also already given you loads of information, or will be sending you loads of information about intermittent fasting regarding it. So you can also, directly message me and ask me if there's any further questions, or use the Facebook VIP group to ask any further questions on intermittent fasting. But that's something I would highly recommend. Now, obviously, the other strategy is breakfast. Now, breakfast, one more thing I want to add is, essentially when you're intermittent fasting, you would pretty much skip breakfast. Right? The easiest way to implement intermittent fasting, for example, is if you stop eating 8 in the evening and start eating at midday the next day. That's a 16-hour fast, right? That's a simple, at least that's how I do it. Doesn't mean you have to eat. Some people stop eating 6 in the evening, 7 in the evening. So you just count to 16 hours or 18 hours, and that creates a healthier, that creates that 16-hour fasting window. Now, if you're not interested in doing intermittent fasting, doesn't mean you can't still get results. You can still get results by still eating breakfast. Now, when it comes to breakfast, contrary to popular belief, breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. That's what I used to believe as well. But unfortunately, this is a great scam done by the cereal companies who pretty much rule the world, who force us to believe that breakfast is a very important meal of the day and we have to pretty much eat cereal. And that's how they make their money. But anyway, with breakfast, it's not about having a breakfast. As long as you eat the right amount of food every day, your body is happy. Your body needs a certain amount of nutrients, and as long as you provide the right amount of nutrients for the day, it's completely fine. It does not matter. It's actually proven by certain studies now that it does not matter what time of the day you eat or how many meals you eat. So you can have one meal, you can have 2 meals, you can have 3 meals, 6 meals, however it fits into your lifestyle. It really does not matter how many meals you eat or what time of the day you eat, right? To create this, as long as you create a healthy deficit, that's essentially works. So, but still, if you want to, I used to be a big believer in breakfast. I used to eat pretty much within 30 minutes of waking up. And sometimes I still do, but then some days I still implement intermittent fasting. So if you're still a person who wants to eat breakfast, that's absolutely fine. What you need to make sure is you avoid eating things like cereals and even, I would say, oats. Oats is not the worst thing. It's still high in fiber, but still it's quite calorific. Especially if you're eating oats that have gluten in it, that still bloats the stomach up. So I found with a lot of clients is that even though they've been eating oats, it still prevents them from losing the amount of body fat they want within a good amount of time. So what I would suggest is you want to switch that breakfast meal, into a savory meal and have a high source of protein with that meal. So for example, most people for dinner, right, they would have something like a salmon steak with a salad, right, like a Mediterranean style. So essentially what you want to have is something like that for your breakfast. The best breakfast to have is a meat and nut breakfast. Now, when I say meat, it does not necessarily have to be like chicken or beef or whatnot. It can also be a fish. Actually, having said that, the best way to get lean in terms of protein is when you eat fish, especially white fish, you get lean a lot faster. So these are all little things that you can implement into your food, into your strategies of eating, into your meal plans to get leaner. So what I would say, coming back to what type of breakfast you want to have, you want to eat a high source of protein breakfast. And ideally with some nuts as well, and treat it like a proper meal rather than having this cereals and whatnot. But also then you can also have a smoothie, right? You can have a smoothie in the morning, especially if you're vegetarian. If you don't like to eat meat, what you can have is, for example, you can buy pea protein. There's lots of different brands. I can always recommend you one that I have. You can have a pea protein that and make a simple smoothie for breakfast, especially if you're a person who doesn't some people complain that they cannot stomach something like meat in the morning, which is fine, but you can always still have something like a healthy protein smoothie, and we can still call that a meal. So yeah, and let's go back to what to eat, right? That's the biggest question. Now I'm going to purely talk in terms of weight loss, not in terms of eating healthy, because there's a little bit of a distinction between the two. So let's simply speak in terms of weight loss. Now, when it comes to weight loss, there's no real good or bad foods. You can pretty much eat anything you want, and as long as it fits into your macronutrients, into your daily calorific intake, you'll actually fine. As long as you create a healthy deficit of about 500 to 600 or 700 calories, you'll still fine completely to eat what you want. Now, having said that, you don't want to abuse that. You still want to make sure what you put into the body is as much as whole foods as possible. So what I mean by whole foods is a food that is closest to its purest state, or is in its purest state rather. So anything that's processed, anything that comes in a packet or package, technically is a processed food, right? So you want to try your best to avoid it or minimize eating processed foods. It's actually almost inevitable that at some point we are going to eat. We're so exposed to processed foods, right? So but what you want to do is minimize that as much as possible. So at least 80% of the food that you eat should be whole foods. So yeah, what to eat? Let's say every single one of your meals should include a high source of protein, right? So if you put your palms together, yeah, let's say you bring your hands together, one half of that plate should be a source of protein. So that's essentially a chicken breast, a salmon fillet, let's say 2 eggs, right? Let's say a handful of nuts. One whole half of your plate should be ideally protein. The other half, you can split it into carbohydrates and fats. So for example, 1/4 of the plate, you could have a palm full of rice, for instance. Green vegetables, we're talking broccoli, edamame beans, green beans, spinach, or what have you. So, and this is just rough guidelines. You can easily vary it as much as possible, but the most important thing is that you base your whole meal, your main meals and your snacks around protein sources. So, to recap what we're supposed to do. Step 1 of the nutrition workshop is to watch this video on the fundamentals of nutrition. You can go through this video over and over again, especially you might have missed a couple of things, so by all means use this video as a reference point of whenever you feel lost or when you want to get started. Step 2, of course, is to download the MyFitnessPal app from the App Store and make yourself a free account and set up your goals and your targets of what you want to achieve over the next several weeks, if you will. Step 3 is to fill out the online nutrition worksheet that I've included on the email. And I've included also a list of several resources for helping you to fill out this nutrition worksheet, such as a list of animal protein sources, a list of vegetable protein sources if you're vegetarian or vegan, a list of protein snacks, and an article to lowering your carbohydrate intake. And also I've included a whole list of example meal plans for different calorific needs. I think it ranges between 1,200 to 2,000 calories worth of nutrition meal plans. And these are all simple example meal plans. Doesn't mean you have to follow these word for word. These are just simply there for you to help you out with making your own meal plan to suit your lifestyle, if you will. I've also included a recipe book to give you simply inspiration to make up your own recipes, or simply use some of the recipes within the recipe book. Step 4 is to print out a copy of the meal planner template. Now this is very important, because what you want to do is use the answers you've used on the nutrition worksheet on your meal planner template, write them down or type down the meals that you're going to have over the next 7 days. Yeah. So, and this is simply not for you to follow word for word. Yeah. The idea, if you follow word for word, it's great, but the idea is for you to have a pre-planned structure, if you will. That way, if you ever feel like you're going off the rails, or if you feel like you've ever fallen off the wagon, all you got to do is simply go back to your meal plan template right away, and then guess what? You're right back on track, just like that. And that's the key to long-term success, is simply being prepared in advance. Because as I mentioned earlier, you are going to have the days that you're going to be out. You are going to have work dues. You are going to be having birthdays and whatnot. You're going to be having holidays. And the idea is not to consider these events as falling off the wagon. It's simply life happening as it is. So, but as soon as you finish off at the end of that day, having enjoyed the food or whatnot, you want to go right back into track. And that's what the plan, the whole point of this meal plan is there for. So what you want to do is download print out a copy of this meal plan template, write down 7 days worth of food that you used using your nutrition worksheet, and all the resources are included in the email, and ideally put it up on your fridge. Yeah, and that's what I do, and that way the rest of the family gets to see what I eat. And sometimes they join in on the same meal plan, which makes it even better. If you can make yourself a family meal plan based on the same high protein sources diet, that would make sure that everybody's on track, and it will make sure you have even longer success, even better success. So that's step 4, and this again doesn't have to be, you don't have to be stick by it. If you notice that after several days or several weeks that you want to change the meal plan, by all means just go through all these steps again and change the meal plan as you do. Yeah, you can have a meal plan for 1 week and a completely different meal plan for another week. These are all just simple guidelines for you to create your own meal plan that you have for pretty much the rest of your life, if you will. Step 5 is use this template to outline your 7 days worth of food and drinks. Yeah, so I think I've already mentioned that anyway. And step 6 is to simply use this template, the meal plan template, to create your own 7 days worth of groceries. Again, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people mention to me is they run out of their ingredients when they wanna have their meals. So it's making sure you're prepared in advance. What you want to do is, using the meal plan, simply write down a list of all the key ingredients that you need to make sure they are in your cupboards, in your kitchen at all times. Yeah. So that again really helps, and you want to make sure you do that shopping well in advance as well. So I think that's all the steps I've included at the making of this workshop, but I include several steps depending on the time you see this video. All right, then. Any further questions? Again, you can reach out to me or any of the other trainers in the program, and we can go through anything that you might feel like you've missed out or you need more clarification. All right, I hope that helps, guys. Thank you.